to my SIP provider on the internet. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, in the style of Dan Kaminsky, I guess you could say I'm tunneling GSM over GSM. So you can see there's calls popping up. I'm gonna try and decode one of these. I'm not used to working at such low resolution. No, it's not going to play the game. We'll come back to that. So yeah, that's OpenBootTS. It's essentially a GSM base station in a box. You just give it hardware, give it configuration, and you can take it from there. So assuming that you've booted up your base station and you don't want to run an IMSI catcher, because obviously IMSI catchers are illegal. We don't want to be doing anything illegal. So you want to run a test network. Well, the first thing that you want to do is set your MNC and your MCC to 001, 001. These are GSM test values, so it's a test country with a test network, and phones should not connect to it by default. The other thing that you'll want to do is reduce your output power. You'll see I've got no antennas on here, so if phones find base stations by camping to the strongest signal, if you make your signal deliberately weak, phones shouldn't camp to you. It's fairly logical. The third thing that I'm doing here as well is using a GSM 900 frequency. So this is a European GSM frequency that over here overlaps the ISM band. So I'm not using a GSM band here, which is why a standard single band or dual band US cell phone will not be able to see the BTS. You need a quad band phone because I'm operating in GSM 900, which is the ISM band over here. So the problem with this is that despite all of these protections, we've seen iPhones that still kind of beat their heads against us, begging us to hack them. We took all of these precautions, we figured out all of these steps, and a few more as well, to try and deter this iPhone from connecting to us during testing. And we could not shake it. We dropped our output power, we removed our antennas, we changed our MNC and MCC, everything that we could possibly do to prevent people from connecting to us accidentally, and this iPhone would not leave us alone. We don't know what the specific details of that problem were, but I've actually been told that since then, I've found out that apparently during the manufacturing process for the iPhone, one of the final stages of the process is they put it onto a BTS with an MNC and MCC of 001, 001 in order to test the bit error rate of the radio. The problem with that is that if they then don't clear the baseband correctly, that test MNC MCC will end up as a stored preferred network by the baseband. So what we suspect is that something went wrong in the manufacturing process of that iPhone, and that test MNC MCC ended up as a preferred network, which is kind of scary if you think about it, given that this is supposed to be never seen in practice, and this particular iPhone just, like I said, it would not leave us alone. A couple of bugs in OpenBTS that we've seen that are kind of fun. One of the things that you get to configure in OpenBTS is your network short name. So anyone who's connected to the network will see it comes up as TestSim. You can set that to be anything you like. There was a student in China who set up a very similar setup to this. But instead of using a test MNC and MCC, he used the MNC MCC of China Telecom. And of course, all of the China Telecom handsets in the area connected to his BTS and started showing OpenBTS as their network name. His classmates got a little upset at this, so he took down the BTS. All the handsets camped back to China Telecom and still said OpenBTS as the network name. Hard reboots later, the BTS was long gone, the phones had been hard rebooted, had the batteries and SIM cards pulled, they still showed OpenBTS as the preferred network name. As far as I know, he's never found a way to fix that. Open and closed registration. So I mentioned that the text message that you send goes through to the asterisk config, and it adds your IMSI to the asterisk config. That's actually the second level of access control on the system. The first one is when your phone initially connects to the base station. The base station has the option of rejecting you or accepting you based on your IMEI and your IMSI. One of the previous versions of OpenBTS had a bug in that when you turned off open registration, which allows everyone to connect, the message that it sent back when it was connected to by a phone that it didn't want, instead of sending the "you're not authorized to connect to this network" message, by mistake it sent the "you've been stolen, please turn yourself off" message. In the case of iPhones, if they receive this message, it's a hard reboot to clear it. I don't know how many people have ever tried taking the battery out of an iPhone. Other handsets will actually disable themselves permanently, because this is a GSM protection to try and prevent the use of stolen handsets. So as far as the handset's concerned, the network is telling it that it's been stolen and it needs to disable itself. So it could well end up as a completely permanent DOS against the handset. So we've not talked about any crypto in GSM yet. Nothing at all. We've not touched on crypto yet. And we've already got some pretty good attacks here. We've got IMSI-TIMSI secrecy being broken, if I can trick you into connecting to my BTS. We've got an unintentional DOS where we accidentally entice users to connect to our BTS even though we don't want them. It's kind of hard to avoid that DOS. We've got an unintentional semi-permanent DOS where we can just disable phones as and when we wish. And all we need to do is spoof 6 digits of MNC and MCC for a man-in-the-middle attack against GSM. So without even touching on any of the GSM crypto, we've already got some pretty significant attacks against GSM here. And this was the point at which we started thinking, wow, this is kind of shocking. We were quite surprised by this level of vulnerability in a protocol like GSM. So let's talk about the crypto then. Let's get onto that. Some of the basic primitives in the GSM crypto scheme. There's 2 main inputs. There's a nonce called RAND. This is sent from the base station to the handset during the initial authentication. It's a challenge response mechanism, and this random value is the only challenge. There is no client-side challenge at all. KI is the secret key. If you think of your IMSI as effectively your username, then KI is your password. It's a 128-bit secret stored in your SIM. It shouldn't ever leave the SIM. Outputs from the crypto scheme, case C is your session key. This is the key that's actually used to cipher your traffic in both directions. It's a mutually agreed secret based on KI that is used to key the A5 cipher. And then SRES is a session response. So the idea is it's a little chunk of data that's sent from the handset back to the base station as proof that you know the secret. In terms of algorithms, there's 3 primary algorithms, A3, A5, and A8. You shouldn't think of these as algorithms. This is more like algorithm algebra. A3, A5, A8 don't refer to specific functions. They refer to a class of functions with specific characteristics. So A3 and A8, for example, are hash functions. They're normally implemented as one single hash function. So you'll see people talking about A3, A8 as one function. A5 is the cipher that's used, and again, there's multiple variations of that. How are these things actually put together? Well, let's talk about the process of actually camping to a base station. So your handset turns on, searches the beacon channel for an MNC MCC it wants to connect to, finds an appropriate BTS. It sends its TIMSI to the BTS. The BTS at that point can request its IMSI, or it can authenticate based on the TIMSI as it wishes. And the first thing that the base station does is send this random nonce to the handset. Now, I mentioned this is the only source of entropy in the authentication of GSM. There is no client challenge, meaning that any vulnerabilities that are exposed as a result of the BTS owner, that would be me, having control of these random nonces, there's nothing you can do to prevent them. Once the handset receives this random nonce, it passes it along to the SIM, usually over a clear text channel. So one of the popular methods for unlocking an iPhone is actually a shim that you put between your SIM card and your phone, and it proxies the requests between the two. Now, the idea of this is that the early versions of the iPhone firmware, the iPhone baseband firmware rather, they actually queried the SIM card multiple times for the IMSI and only used one of those responses to determine if you were SIM locked. So all they did was they proxy all of these requests and modify them as they see fit, except for the one that gets checked, and that's the one that gets passed through unmodified. So it's totally possible to man in the middle between your phone and your SIM and do that for whatever you want to do. The SIM takes this random nonce, concatenates it with the secret key, and hashes it. Typically, A3 and A8 are implemented as one function. So it'll run one hash function over this blob of binary, and then it splits the output into two. The first part of the output becomes the session key. The second part of the output becomes the session response. So by taking that hash and splitting it into two, you can prove that you know KI by sending the session response, as well as establishing a secret for your A5 cipher. So that's the basic authentication scheme. BTS sends a random nonce to the mobile station, which passes it along to the SIM. The SIM concatenates that nonce with its secret key, hashes the result, passes the result back to the handset, which then splits it into the session response and the ciphering key. So how does this work with an IMSI catcher? Because if you think about it, I don't know any of your KIs. I don't know any of your secret keys, yet you're able to connect to my BTS. How does that work? Well, if I don't know KI, then it doesn't really matter what random challenge I send to you, because I don't know what the KC is going to be. I don't know what that key is going to be. So regardless of what random nonce I send you, I can't decrypt the result. Fortunately, there's the A5 ciphers that I mentioned. There's 4 variants of it that you can request from the BTS, of which A50 is a null cipher, effectively plain text. So all that happens is when you connect to my BTS says, hey, I don't know who you are, I don't know who your secret key is, let's just talk in plain text. And your phones will just go, yeah, okay. They really will just go, okay. There's a section, the GSM specifications are very long, very wordy, and very unreadable. There's one particular part of the specification, though, that says that whenever a connection is in place which is or becomes unenciphered, an indication shall be given to the user. So if you go and look up A51 on Wikipedia, you'll actually see a screenshot of a Nokia phone saying, warning, ciphering not provided by operator. I can pretty much guarantee that nobody in this room has ever actually seen this alert in reality, because you have? Excellent, someone has. Awesome, that's a first. The reason why you'll very rarely see this, I won't say never anymore, is because there is a bit in the configuration that's stored in your SIM card that if the mobile network operator sets that bit, it'll disable the alert from being displayed. So rather than thinking that you've never seen this plain text alert on your phone, don't think that that's because you've never connected to a network that doesn't use ciphering. I guarantee you that you've probably connected to a network that does disable ciphering. The only problem is that your mobile network operator, your service provider, has disabled that alert to tell you about it. Kind of fun.
Why do they do that?
Because it's simpler, essentially. If you get a configuration problem with a BTS, let's say that the base station loses the ability to query the hardware location registry for what session key should be generated for a particular challenge. It's a lot easier to just disable ciphering and allow people to continue making calls, rather than disabling the cell completely while you figure out the problem. So it's done for simplicity, effectively.
Less transport costs.
Yes, LexDeck support calls, indeed. So let's talk about A3 and A8. These are the